Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Difference Makers webinar, where we explore people and organizations that are driving a culture of innovation across the country. Today, I've got Andrew Rogers, Director of Product Development for Carson, and how Carson provides holistic financial planning, disciplined investment strategies, and proactive personal service through prioritizing innovative and client-facing technologies. Before we get started, just a quick note. If you miss an insight or you want to revisit this webinar, no worries, we've got you covered. We'll send the recording straight to your inbox so you have access anytime you like. And with that, let's do this. Hello, Andrew. Good to see you. Thanks for your time today.
Good to see you as well.
Awesome. Well, to kick off, I would just love for you to spend a little bit of time giving us your background, how you got connected with Carson, and more about your experience there.
Yeah, for sure. So my journey to Omaha, Nebraska is a little bit unique in that I actually grew up in California, and most people grow up in Nebraska and want to get to California.
Right.
I grew up in California and ended up in Nebraska. But I went to school and grew up in Sacramento, California, in the Northern California area. Applied and looked at a bunch of different universities out east, and ultimately settled on Creighton University here in Omaha. Again, one of those kind of by happenstance. My mom and I were taking a train into Omaha, got in at 2 o'clock in the morning, and walked on campus the next day and said, love this place. This is where I need to go. Didn't hurt that now the basketball team is pretty good and there's a lot of great programs there, and loved my 4 years. But it just happened to work out that way. And then fast forward to my sophomore year of school, and I had started going to the Career Center and asking, I should probably get an internship, something like that. And just so happened that I met Aaron Shaban, who's our president of Carson now. And at the time, he was just starting a new business venture for Carson Group, the Carson Partnership. And so at the time, it was Carson Institutional Advisory. We've changed names a few times over the years. But when I joined up, I was actually the marketing intern and a team of 7 of us. So I was the 7th stakeholder of, at the time, about 40 stakeholders. And now we're a little over 250 nationwide, and have seen a lot of growth and change over that 7, almost 8 years now that I've been at Carson.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And tell us a little bit about what is Carson's focus beyond just the introduction that we provided. Like, what's Carson's passion? What's their drive? What are they trying to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love telling a little bit of the background story of how Carson got to the organization that it is today. So I always want to start with, Ron Carson, our founder and CEO, started Carson as a student at University of Nebraska-Lincoln in 1983. And started as your typical financial advisor, right? Meeting with clients, working with clients to help them meet their financial goals. And if you fast forward to 1993, he was actually at a conference and met a handful of advisors that said, great, you built this successful business. Have you ever thought about coaching or giving some advice to people who are looking to build businesses like the one that you've built yourself? In true entrepreneurial fashion, Ron turns around and says to them, actually, we have our inaugural coaching program going on in Omaha later this year. You should come out. And so was born at the time Peak Advisor Alliance, now is what is called Carson Coaching, and our coaching business that coaches a little over 2,000 financial advisors across the country. Fast forward again to about 2011, late 2011, early 2012, and this idea of the Carson Partnership was born. And it came out of those coaching members that started coming to us and say, it's great for you to coach us on best practice, to tell us about how to do all these things. It would be even better if maybe you just did a lot of that for us, right? And advisors are really good at some core things. They're usually really good at relationship management, spending time with their clients. They might be really good at prospecting, finding new clients, helping people meet their financial goals. But what Carson Partners, and really the innovation behind Carson Partners, is advisors are the epitome of the American small business. They're mostly 4 to 7 person shops. They've got a few people working for them. They manage maybe 150 to 300 families that they manage the wealth for. But all of a sudden they become the chief marketing officer and the chief technology officer and the chief innovation officer and the chief compliance officer and the chief operations officer. And they start wearing all of these different hats in their roles. And most advisors just want to give good financial advice to their clients. They don't want to do all of those other things. And so the beauty behind the partnership is it allows advisors to give up some of those things that maybe they don't love doing, and allows us to really focus on those core competencies and be really good at those things, and allow advisors to just spend time with their clients and better serve the families that they serve every single day. So on the partnership side, we do operations, compliance, marketing, technology, investments, all of that kind of back office type things for financial advisors to help them grow their businesses and ultimately meet their goals. And you see all different types of advisors, some that are in the succession planning stage of their career, some that are just starting out and looking for massive transformative growth, right? They're looking at lots of different avenues of how they could grow and take their business to the next level. And that's where really that partnership comes along, where we can come alongside them and say, we'll take on some of that stuff that maybe you don't love to do and allow you to focus on the things that you really do love to do.
That's excellent, Andrew. And I heard as you're retelling kind of that history, there were a few bright lights of innovation,
Hmm.
not all of them software, in the history of Carson. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd really like to focus in on each one of those periods and
For sure.
and kind of unpack what was the problem or the situation. I know some of these were, we did this and this other opportunity arose, but really kind of walk us through what challenge did you face, and how did that ultimately lead to an innovation and a transformation of the value that Carson provided during that time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
going back to the first one, when you'd mentioned kind of like, hey, what did you think about coaching, right? So I would have called that an innovation during that time.
absolutely. And I think it's my idea of innovation. I think we often jump straight to technology, right? And think technology is the way that we're going to innovate. But I like what you said there. And I challenge us internally all the time to come back to what's the problem statement? What are we trying to solve? And so if we can define what we're trying to solve, innovation could come in the form of a new process. It could come in the form of a new business. It could come in the form of new technology. Innovation doesn't necessarily have to be the next Apple or the next Google or the next Tesla or anything like that.
Well said.
And so the coaching business, I think, is spot on. It's identifying the pain of the advisors at the time. That, again, as I talked about, most advisors are small business owners. They are dealing with the challenges of being a small business owner. And so having a coach, having somebody that helps to focus you on what's the next best thing I can be doing. Because I could do anything. I could do all of these things, but if I try to do all of them, I'm not going to do any of them very well. And I think that's where the beauty of that coach coming alongside you and focusing. I think about I played soccer growing up and all the way through high school, and thought about going and playing in college. But when a coach comes alongside you, it's very rarely to come coach you one-on-one on the big picture. It's not how to play soccer, it's how to play your position or how to get better at this or that. And I think that's that beauty of coaching, is coming alongside somebody and focusing on what are the thing that you're trying to get better at right now, and how can we drive you to that next step.
Yeah, that's great. And some excellent reminders there about innovation not being solely technology, but that being one form of innovation that you could pursue. And what's another one of your favorite maybe pivot points or innovations that you've observed over your 7 or 8 years at Carson?
Yeah. So I think back to very early on in my time at Carson, and when we first started, and this one will be a little more technology focused, but it was when we first started going down this path of where does technology and the operating of a business come together, or where do what are the best uses of technology is maybe a better way to put it. Because when we first started, it was, let's go do this and let's do that and let's do that and let's try to grab all these really cool innovative pieces of technology. And what you end up with is this giant hodgepodge mess of tools.
Nope,
And
you are the only one that's ever had that problem, by the way.
oh, totally, I'm sure that we are unique in this. And
No.
no, everyone I talk to, every business, as they're growing and going through that exponential growth and saying, oh, we could provide this service to our customers, we could provide that service, and so let's go grab this tool and let's grab that tool. And when I talk to people, there's really kind of we'll call it a pick your path of technology integration, specifically in our industry. Most people start out with what we'll call free or included in their broker dealer or custodian technology. So think about that as like TD Ameritrade or Fidelity. They'll provide some basic technology that allows you to do things like trade a financial account, Client walks in and says, I want to buy X or I want to invest Y. We allow you to, our technology allows you to do that. And then they start to go buy different pieces and they say, I want a risk management software and I want a CRM and I want a financial planning software and I want all of these different tools. And then you start paying a couple $1,000 a year. And then you get to really where we were about 4 or 5 years ago, which is the integration point, where it's, wouldn't it be great if all these different pieces of technology came together?
Yep.
And every technology provider will tell you they're integratable. Every single one. I've yet to meet one that tells you, nope, we don't integrate with that, right? Everyone loves to tell you that. But what they don't tell you is the time, effort, energy, money, resources, manpower, et cetera, that goes into that integration. And you end up building this really incredibly brittle system. And so I think about 4 or 5 years ago with some of the people I work with, Quinn and Ben and others that were a part of our team. And when something broke, it fell to one of the three of us to fix it. It was the Saturday at 2 o'clock. I got a client coming in Monday morning. What are you doing? We got to get this fixed because it's not working. And that's where that brittleness of trying to figure out, we're trying to solve an operational or a business need. So we just go grab a piece of technology and try to, duct tape them together and make it work, which then gets to that decision to really become focused on innovating technology and deciding to say, we're going to have a department, we're going to have teams, we're going to have development teams, we're going to work with teams at Aviture and other development shops across the country to build technology. And we wake up every single day and that's what our focus is, right? I say this to advisors. I don't get up and think about how am I going to allocate a client's portfolio this week, right? My job is to wake up and say, what new technology is out there that we should be looking at? What are the things that we're trying to integrate and innovate on together? What's the client experience look like? Advisor experience look like? That's our focus every single day. And it allows us to be focused on that and allow advisors, again, to focus on the things that are most important to them.
That's excellent. If I were to pull out a bit there, it sounds like pain drove innovation in this particular instance, the pain of brittle and fragile technology amalgamations. So very good. And with that in mind, if you wouldn't mind just bringing us forward a little bit to some of the innovations that we at Aviture, we've really enjoyed our partnership. We've really enjoyed getting to know you and your business. If you would just share just a little bit of the innovations that we're working together to usher in there.
Yeah, I think the two biggest things that we've been working on closely with Aviture and that excite me are really the cornerstones, if you will, of our technology ecosystem that we've built are first and foremost owning the client experience. With all the different tools in our space, clients end up with 5, 6, 8, 12 different client logins. They can go to different tools to get different things. And it's that focus on that single pane of glass. Where do I go to get the information with my advisor without going to 5 or 6 different logins to try and piece it all together, throw it in a spreadsheet and get that information. So it's really focusing on that maniacal focus on what's the client experience going to look like? Where can we drive them to a single pane of glass? And then the second is really, we call it our data warehouse, but I call it really our data independence, right? The ability for us to control our data and be able to push it to different systems at different points in time. I'll use an example, right? We just went through a massive CRM conversion, right? We went from Salesforce Classic to Salesforce Financial Services Cloud. And that while they both may be called Salesforce, I will tell you they might as well be 2 completely different products and 2 different companies. But being able to understand where your data is and how you want to get it from one system into another versus trying to tackle a conversion from one CRM into another and the manpower necessary to pull from one and put into another, right? Being able to control that migration process through a data warehouse and owning that data is something that really drives innovation in our space and allows us to be much more flexible, agile, nimble, whatever term you want to use it, to whatever new thing might be coming out next week or next month or next year.
Excellent. Obviously, we love that focus on the user experience. And if you would, a little bit of it's the user experience for them starts at that single pane of glass. Mm-hmm. But I love the way that you talked. It reaches all the way back to the data. The user experience is not just the browser interface that you might be working with or the mobile interface, but all the way through the systems, through the integrations back to the data. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I would say that the big banks have done better than the independent space that we're in, which is one of the few times I can actually say that, right? The Wells Fargos, the Merrill Lynches, the Morgan Stanleys, they have owned that a client goes to their website to interact with their data at all times, right? They've been that way from the very beginning. Now, what the independent space loves is the ability to use different tools and use cool tax planning software and financial planning and estate planning and all these different cool pieces of technology that they can't use in some of those big wirehouse brand names, but trying to mimic the client experience, because the client experience is great at those institutions, right? They have a brand name, everyone knows who they are, everyone knows who those companies are when you talk about them. So how do we bring together that brand name and that loyalty and that that comfort that comes with that into the independent space and allow advisors to use all the different tools that they want while still delivering that consistent client experience is really what we're after there.
Excellent. And if I could be so bold, Andrew, I want to change your title from director of product to director of innovation. It sounds like through your time there and with the team that you have around you, that you've really made innovation, technical and non-technical, a priority for your company and for your customers.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think that's what I get most excited about, right? Is how do we understand? And that's where, I've worn a lot of different hats at Carson. I alluded to starting as a marketing intern. I've worked in almost every department within the organization, except I think legal. But I think every other department I've been in at least for a couple of months. And what that allowed me to do is to really understand how the business works. And I don't think we can truly drive innovation if you can't at least walk a mile in someone's shoes and understand what a day in the life of a accountant on the finance team looks like, or the billing associate, or the trader, or the compliance analyst. Any of those people, for us to be able to drive innovation, truly understanding their roles and their pain points they might be finding, that's where we can really find innovation that drives meaningful change inside an organization.
Yeah, and shameless plug for Aviture as an innovation partner. That's actually one of our favorite things, is to come alongside an organization such as Carson and walk with you at least a mile to understand some of those challenges that you're attempting to tackle and how we can get after it with you. So that's the exciting part of our job as well. You've got some very large, powerful innovations in flight, but what's even beyond that? What's next? Like, where does Carson want to go in the future as far as innovation and offering?
Yeah. So at Carson, we talk about our massive transformative purpose, right? So our MTP is to be the most trusted for financial advice. And when I think about that, I'm often reminded of the Gallup study that comes out every year that talks about the most trusted industries. And financial services is usually between second and fourth least trusted industry in the world. We're usually just beat out by used car salesmen in Congress.
Oh boy.
So, right, that massive transformative purpose to be the most trusted, when you compare that to the studies that say we're second to fourth least trusted, that's a big aspirational goal. And so as I think about how do we drive innovation towards that MTP, and to me, it really breaks down into two big categories. First, we need more advisors. We need better advisors, better educated advisors, people giving better financial advice to clients. Because by bringing more people into this industry, we can start to spread that knowledge and that experience out to more people. But also, the only way to scale that delivery of advice and that delivery of knowledge is through technology. So if we want to be the most trusted, we have to break out of the mold of you have to be the millionaire next door before you go work with a financial advisor. I have to have $500,000 saved or $1 million saved or whatever that is. We have to break that mold and allow more people access to that advice. We have to be able to deliver that advice to people who have $0 saved or negative net worth, and allow them to come along for the ride and be a part of that that change that can happen through getting advice from quality financial advisors. But again, you need more advisors to be able to deliver that advice, and you need technology to be able to scale it. Because I'm not naive enough to say that I know every advisor, most advisors, I won't say every, most advisors charge it on an AUM fee schedule. So they might charge 1%. you generate a lot more revenue off $1 million client than you do off $1,000 client. So it's understandable why people focus where they focus. But I think that I know that to be the most trusted for financial advice, we have to be able to deliver the same advice to somebody with $1,000 as we do with somebody with $1 million. And I think it's through technology and better education and better advisors that we do that.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. And in true entrepreneurial and innovative fashion, you're not looking to just affect the immediate reach and scope of Carson, but you're looking to affect the industry at large, which I think is just amazing. So hats off to you and the Carson team. Really appreciate our time together today. I have a few quick fun questions for you to kind of wrap up our time. So just off the top of your head, PC or Mac?
Mac. Every time. Mac.
No doubt. Okay, excellent. Assuming you use emojis, what emoji do you probably use the most often?
So I'm actually going to go with thumbs up, but I think my team gives me a really hard time for this because I refuse to use the add reactions in Slack. I always type out the thumbs up underneath because I don't get notifications when somebody doesn't. And so, but they always give me a hard time that I never use that add reactions, and I almost never use the thread function in Slack, which drives everyone nuts.
Very good. Well, we're not going to reform your Slack habits, but I am also a big fan of the thumbs up. So I appreciate that. One piece of technology from TV or a movie or a book that you wish you had today that doesn't exist yet, but man, would it hurry up and get here?
Well, I think that there's the cliche answer of, I'd love to be able to, teleport or apparate in the Harry Potter world or any of that, because I think, who likes getting on a flight for 3 hours to get anywhere? And especially in the COVID world we're all living in right now, I think everyone wants to travel and go someplace a little nicer. The other one that comes to mind is I often think about those cop TV shows or the murder mystery TV shows where they've got that giant computer screen, giant touch screen, and they've got 8 different things going on at once. And they can throw it across all the different whiteboards and be able to interact with all that data. And somehow my iPad just doesn't do that.
Doesn't quite get there.
Doesn't quite get there. And I understand that there's some ways that is possible today and others that it's not, but I'm waiting for the day where I don't have to have my multiple monitors. I can just throw everything up on a wall and focus on the things that are most important at the time and move things around like that.
That's good. I honestly would be happy with the little Tony Stark, just flick your phone at the TV and have it screen share to the TV. I mean, even that would be a step in the right direction, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today, Andrew. It's great getting to share behind the scenes look at how Carson continues to achieve sustainable growth. You can find Carson on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, as well as www.carsonwealth.com. That brings us to the end of today's webinar. And if you've got a question or you want to get in touch with us, please feel free to email me at steve.miller@aviture.us.com or visit us on the web at www.aviture.us.com for additional content, resources, and more. Keep an eye out for the next Difference Makers webinar coming to you in May. Stay tuned. Have a great rest of your day.